Quick intro. Activity 5. Prepare for your interview. Interview. This is a sweet and thrilling word for everyone who's looking for a job. It doesn't matter if it's your first or 30th interview, it's always a new, unique, and useful experience. The interview for your first job stands apart, though, because the candidate usually has zero experience in software testing and often has no idea on how to leave a positive impression on the interviewers. Our purpose is to give you several good approaches to increase both your confidence and your chances of getting a job offer. Brain positioning. Please remember and believe that if you'll work hard and smart during the job hunting process, employers will want to meet you. Weeks and months can pass without an invitation for an interview, but one day you'll get that call or email you've been waiting for. This is not theoretical stuff. We've been there, and our students have been there, and we know what we are talking about. You'll be given an address and time for your interview. You'll be at the employer's office 30 minutes before the interview. 1 minute before the time of the interview, you'll take a deep breath, open the door, and say to the receptionist, "Hello, my name is," your full name. "I'm here for an interview with," interviewer's full name. Wait, but what about the period of time between the invitation for an interview and the interview itself? You must prepare for the interview. Let's elaborate. Do your homework. Get as much information as possible about the company, products, business model, partners, competitors, market, history, culture, founders, etc. The most straightforward reason for doing this is that software folks love their companies, and they would surely appreciate the fact that you know a lot about them, but there is more to it. Example. The first more to it. Before her interview, Anna read that the company had a huge user base in Germany, and there were rumors about ongoing projects on product localization. Being a second-generation German-American, she was fluent in German, and she made sure to mention this during her interview. She was hired, and as she found out later, she was chosen over other candidates just because of her German language abilities. By the way, can speak German wasn't in the job description at all, but because she had done her homework, she knew where to put an emphasis during the interview to make herself more attractive as a candidate for that job. Example, the second more to it. John had an interview at one extremely popular file-sharing service. He did his research before the interview, and he found out that major music labels were likely to file a lawsuit against that company. John asked the interviewers, "Are you working towards an agreement with those companies that might sue you? What is your plan B if a lawsuit is filed?" After receiving a no to the first question and there is no plan B to the second question, he decided that he'd better look elsewhere. As it turned out, the company was sued and shut down in several months. By doing his homework, John asked intelligent questions and made the right decision to avoid working there. Involve your network. As one option, you can use LinkedIn to find out how people working for a particular company are connected to you or your connections. Make calls, send emails, meet for lunch. The world is small, and sometimes life brings us wonderful gifts such as the example below. Example. One day before an interview, Mary found out that the husband of her long-forgotten cousin was the vice president of that very company. So, Mary promptly arrived for dinner to their house with a bottle of his favorite cognac. And the interview was done in a friendly atmosphere enhanced by fine alcohol. Mary got a job offer at exactly 2 a.m., right after the bottle was finished and the taxi driver was waking up the neighborhood with his impatient honking. There are many stories like that, so remember, your network can give you an easy ticket to employment. Use company software. If a candidate is scheduled to come to the book-selling website for an interview, we'd recommend buying at least one book from the website. Why? Simply to get practical knowledge about the product. It is one thing to tell an interviewer your product is great, and quite another to say, "I use your software and I like it because," list number of concrete reasons why you like it. Example. Before his interview at one mobile startup, Rajiv found out that his cell phone didn't support video streaming. So he did some research, found a phone that did support video streaming, purchased it, and spent an hour playing with their product. During his interviews, every interviewer asked Rajiv if he used their service, and he was able to share what he personally liked, as well as what he'd love to see improved. He made a good impression with his comments, but on top of that, everyone was really impressed that he actually spent time and money to get a new phone just to be prepared for the interview. He got the job offer. Now think about it. What kind of message did he send when he mentioned that he bought a phone in order to get ready for the interview? Simple. It was a message about his attitude. Look good and have a good sleep. The Russians say, the first impression is about your looks. The second impression is about your intellect. It's great to say smart things during your interview, but how you look is also very important. A good chunk of an overall impression is made within the first several seconds of an interaction. So looking like Indiana Jones right after he returned from the jungle doesn't really help you make a good impression. Here are some more thoughts about your appearance during an interview. Clothes. For the interview, it's customary to wear a business suit. It really depends on the company's culture and your target market, but many software engineers do not do it for the following two reasons. One, it's not what software engineers wear. Our professional uniform is t-shirts, sneakers, and jeans. If you were a banker, you'd come to an interview looking like a banker, wearing a formal suit and shiny leather shoes. So nice, clean jeans, shirt, and shoes will do. If in doubt, ask the person in the company where you're going for the interview about their dress code. 2. If your current manager sees you wearing a business suit, the first thing he might think is that you are being interviewed at another company. As we'll discover later, you must get a new job before you quit your old job. Cosmetics. Don't overdo it. This is a cultural thing. In the U.S., cosmetics use is much lighter than in Europe or Asia. After all, you're applying for a software job, not a modeling position. Perfume? Don't use it at all. There are many people with allergies, and what if your perfume reminds the interviewer of his unfaithful fiancé? Again, in the U.S., people use fragrances very lightly. Sleep. It might be really hard to get a good sleep the night before the interview, especially if it's your first interview. But you must understand that even if your clothes and haircut look great, it doesn't really help if you look like you were partying the whole night. Besides, you'll think more clearly if you are well rested. To conclude this section on appearance, we can't help mentioning a funny situation that occurred when one candidate came to an 11 a.m. interview drunk. We talked to him and were really impressed with his expertise. He was good. But come on, if he came drunk to the interview, which is the place where everybody does his best to make a good impression, what could we expect from him in his normal state? Dancing naked with a bottle of Stoli during his lunch break? Phone screening and phone interview. In many cases, you'll have a phone screening and/or a phone interview. Before the actual invitation to interview on site, a phone screening is usually conducted by someone in HR, Human Resources. The QA manager gives HR a list of questions along with a bunch of resumes. The HR person calls candidates and writes down their responses, along with any remarks about his impressions on the back of the resumes. The resumes are returned to the QA manager. He checks the answers and remarks and calls or emails the candidates who seem most promising for the position to arrange a phone interview or to invite them for a person-to-person interview. Try to impress the HR person. Be confident, polite, speak clearly, and put positive energy into your voice. Let your attitude be heard in every word you say. You can make mistakes answering technical questions, but that is forgivable. This is your first job. But if the HR person doesn't like you, you'll probably never get a call from the QA manager. The bottom line, try to make the HR person like you. The phone interview is usually conducted by the QA manager. This phone interview is often followed by several phone interviews with team members. All recommendations about your behavior during the phone screening apply here. What is the main difference between a phone screening and a phone interview? 1. The phone screening serves as the first filtering stage to eliminate candidates who clearly do not fit, while the phone interview is a real interview that goes into depth about your knowledge and personality. 2. The phone screening is usually conducted by an HR person who just goes through the questions and usually has no idea what the right answers are, while the phone interview is usually conducted by a QA manager or a professional tester who knows the correct answers and can ask follow-up questions. During both the phone screening and the phone interview, use the answering techniques that we will cover in the next lesson. Lesson recap. 1. You must prepare for the interview. 2. Interview preps include A. Get as much information as possible about the company, product, business model, partners, competitors, market, history, culture, founders, etc. B. Involve your network. C. If possible, try to actually use the company's product. D. Get a nice haircut. Clean, good-looking clothes and shoes, and try to get some sleep. 3. Weeks and months can pass without an invitation for an interview, but one day you'll get that call or email you've been waiting for. 4. Your network can give you an easy ticket to employment. 5. Phone screening is about eliminating clearly unfit candidates. 6. A phone interview is a real interview with somebody who understands the subject.